Hello everybody. So, we have been discussing about the frames of reference, that is, inertial frame of reference, non inertial frame of reference. What is the difference between two frames, and how we are going to make a transformation from one inertial frame of reference to another, and such a transformation equation is called Galilean transformation equation. So, these are the things we have discussed so far. And what we are going to discuss next is hypothesis of Galilean invariance, which is our principle of relativity. Okay. So for that we consider two frames S and S prime, and S frame is at rest and S prime frame is moving with uniform speed. So we know that it is possible to go from a one frame to another frame by using transformation equation. And if these two frames are inertial, it is called Galilean transformation equation. And now what we are doing is we are observing a physical phenomena, like a girl playing, a boy throwing a ball. And we are observing a physical phenomena by using these two frames. From the experimental observations, it is seen that both the frames yield identical result. That is something that we know, or we have discussed in our last classes and all. We have discussed that things. Okay. In other words, rest frame and uniformly moving frame cannot be distinguished. That is, all the laws of physics assume the same form in all inertial frames moving with a constant velocity with respect to each other, which is either at rest or constant velocity with respect to each other. Or I can simply state that a rest frame, a frame which is at rest, or a uniformly moving frame cannot be identified from each other. All the laws of physics assume same form in these frames. Suppose, as an example, take an example of a child playing football in a ground on earth. They get a feeling that they are playing on the ground. And if this same football is played in a ship which is moving with a constant speed, they'll have the same feeling. And if you're trying to find out the period of a simple pendulum, you know that period is the time taken to complete one complete movement, okay, to and from motion. And if you're observing, or if you're calculating the period of a simple pendulum by conducting experiment in a classroom, which is a frame which is fixed on earth, and the same is repeated in a vehicle or in a big truck which is moving with a constant speed, what happens? You will be getting the same result. From these experimental observations, a new postulate have been extracted out, and this postulate is known as the hypothesis of Galilean invariance. And the expression for the or the statement for the hypothesis of Galilean invariance is as follows. It is very important, that is, the basic laws of physics are identical in all frames which move with uniform velocity with respect to each other. All the basic laws of physics are identical in all frames which moves with uniform velocity with respect to one another. The basic laws of physics are identical means they are invariant. Thus, we modify the former statement into a new, more powerful statement. That is, the basic laws of physics are invariant in two inertial frames connected by Galilean transformation. That is, all the basic laws of physics remains invariant. In which frames? Inertial frames. Two inertial frames. And normally inertial frames are connected by what type of transformation equation? It is by Galilean transformation. So the basic laws of physics remains invariant in form in reference frames connected by Galilean transformation equation. And this holds good only in inertial frames. And if you're moving with non-inertial frames, or suppose we are working like we are within the framework of special theory of relativity, Galilean transformation doesn't hold good there. It fails there. So the transformation which holds good in the case of relativity, that is the motion which is comparable to the velocity of light. Relativistic motion are those motions in which the velocity of the object is comparable to the velocity of light. In such cases, what happens? The transformation equations are called Lorentz transformation equation. So in the realm of relativity, the hypothesis of invariance changes to a new statement that the basic laws of physics are invariant in two frames connected by Lorentz transformation. And here what is the statement we have deduced before? The basic laws of physics remains invariant in two reference frames connected by Galilean transformation. That is the hypothesis of Galilean invariance. And if you are talking about the relativistic frames, what happens? The basic laws of physics are invariant in two reference frames connected by Lorentz transformation. And we have already discussed the Galilean transformation equation, and the Lorentz transformation equation is something that we are going to discuss in our chapter Relativity. Hope this is clear. So it is important. It is generally a question that is asked for your exams. What is the hypothesis of Galilean invariance and what is Galilean transformation equation, and what is the difference between inertial and non-inertial frames? Hope you are in a position to answer these questions. So we'll move to next topic. That is, we are going to discuss non-inertial frames a bit detailed. We found that the laws of physics do not change in their form when we go from one inertial frame to another inertial frame. That is true, and that is crystal clear. When one frame is accelerated with respect to another frame. So what is this term acceleration? That is its speed. It is no longer moving with a constant velocity. Such a frame is called accelerated frame. If it is not moving with a constant velocity, means what are the velocity is a vector. Vector means it is having both magnitude and direction. So accelerated frames in which what happens? The magnitude of velocity or the direction of velocity can change. If you are moving with constant speed, that is the velocity remains constant, but its direction changes continuously, means a rotational motion. Rotational motion means what happens? The velocity vector changes its direction continuously. So all rotating frames are accelerated frames. Keep in mind, all rotating frames are accelerated frames because the direction of the velocity changes continuously, velocity vector. Okay, so such a frame of reference which is accelerating with respect to another frame is called a non-inertial frame. In other words, a frame of reference in which Newton's laws are not valid. What happens? Newton's laws are valid only in inertial frames. So normally if you are moving from inertial to non-inertial frame, what happens? Newton's laws are violated. And such a frame is called a non-inertial frame. A non-inertial frame is a frame in which acceleration is no longer zero. And so I can mathematically represent a non-inertial frame as d square r by dt square. What is that one? Second derivative of position. It is acceleration. And this acceleration is no longer zero. Hope it is clear. An accelerating frame is a non-inertial frame. Rotational motion is always an accelerating frame. And mathematically I can express it as d square r by dt square not is equal to 0. And a frame in which Newton's laws are no longer valid. It is non-inertial frame. Or an accelerated frame or a rotating frame is called a non-inertial frame. And in these frames, basic laws of physics are no longer valid. Hope it is clear. Now, the question arises, give some examples for non-inertial frames. Examples are like a frame which is attached to merry-go-round. What is merry-go-round? In the parks and all, small children used to play in a device that goes on rotating. Like children have specific seats and they'll be seated. And such a merry-go-round is an example for non-inertial frame. And similarly, joint wheel, yantra unyal. It is a non-inertial frame. And an elevator which is falling freely, what happens? It is a non-inertial frame. And a frame which is attached to a car which is moving with uniform speed. What is the problem there? What makes it accelerating? It is moving along a curve. If you are completing a curve, what you'll get? You'll get a circle or a rotational motion. The effect of rotational motion is having a uniform speed, but the direction of velocity. Magnitude will be constant, but the velocity vector direction changes since it is trying to move along a curve. Means it is a non-inertial frame. So hope the concept non-inertial frame of reference, it is clear for you. So the next topic is fictitious force or pseudo force. And now we are in a position to understand that all accelerated and rotating frames are non-inertial frame. That is clear for you. And according to Newton's second law, what is that? What does the Newton's second law state? The rate of change of momentum is directly proportional to the force applied. And if mass is constant, I can write it as F is equal to m into A. A is the acceleration which is observed in inertial frame. I have written specifically as AI, and I am having a subscript I here representing the inertial frame. And the next problem is this equation is no longer valid for accelerated frames because accelerated frames are non-inertial frames, and in this non-inertial frames, basic laws of physics, and one of the basic laws is Newton's second law. This one, F is equal to ma, is not valid. And it is what makes it invalid is the acceleration of the frame. Now let us try to have a deeper understanding, or let us try to substantiate, give a comment on this statement. For that, we take two examples. S is an inertial frame, S is an inertial frame, and another frame S prime, which is moving with an uniform acceleration A0 with respect to S. And suppose the frame S is at rest and S prime is moving with a uniform acceleration with respect to S frame. Now we assume a particle, and this particle is at rest when we are observing the particle from the S frame. And here we are having a frame, here there is a particle, and with respect to this frame, the particle is at rest. But what happens? If the particle is moving with an acceleration A with respect to S, the particle appears to be moving with an acceleration minus A0 with respect to S prime frame. Okay. This particle is at rest with respect to S frame, and the particle is moving with an acceleration minus A0 with respect to S prime frame. Since S prime frame is an accelerating frame, and this frame is accelerating with an acceleration A0 with respect to S. Make it clear, two frames, S and S prime, S frame, S prime frame. S is at rest, S prime is moving with an acceleration A0 with respect to S. A particle is at rest with respect to S frame. The particle is moving with an acceleration minus A0 with respect to S prime frame. And the second condition is, if the particle is moving with an acceleration A, and so next condition is particle, if you are looking from the S frame, the particle is having an acceleration A. So next question is, what will be the acceleration of the particle when it is observed from the S prime frame? It will be what? The acceleration observed, net acceleration observed for the particle when observed from the S prime frame will be what? AI is the acceleration observed in inertial frame minus A0. It is the acceleration of the S prime frame with respect to S frame. So the net acceleration observed by a particle in S prime frame will be The acceleration of the particle in S prime frame is represented by A prime is equal to AI minus A0. AI is the acceleration of the particle in S frame and A0 is what? The acceleration of the S prime frame with S frame. So the acceleration with respect to S prime frame will be AI minus A0. It is simple. Okay. It is a very simple logic. So what I'm doing next? Here I'm having acceleration. So if you are just multiplying everywhere by the mass of the particle, what I'll get? M into A prime is equal to M into AI minus M into A0. So what I'll be getting? F prime is equal to F minus M into A0. Okay. F prime, which is the force in the S prime frame, is force in the S frame minus M into A0. Force experienced by the particle in the S prime frame is equal to force experienced by the particle in the S frame minus MA0. So next assumption is, if the force observed by the particle in the inertial frame, that is S frame, is 0, what will get? The force observed by the particle in S prime frame is what? Minus MA0. So it is clear that even though there is net force acting on the particle, if we are observing a particle from an accelerating frame, what happens? We feel that the particle is experiencing a force MA0. There is a particle and we are observing a particle which is at rest, and we are observing that particle with respect to an accelerated frame. Then we feel that there is a force acting on this particle. It is felt because of the acceleration of this accelerating non-inertial frame. And this force which is felt, which is not actually there, but we feel there is a force. And such a force which is not actually present, but we feel so as if it is present. Some pseudo force. It is known as a pseudo force or a fictitious force. Thus, I can just expand a pseudo force is a force which does not actually exist, but appears to come as a consequence of the acceleration of the frame with respect to it we make the measurement. Right. So apparent force, the fictitious force or pseudo force is a force which is not actually existing, but we feel it to be existing because we are observing the motion or we are observing the particle from an accelerated frame. So normally the apparent force or net force observed in accelerating force is what? Frame is what? The true force plus fictitious force. Hope it is clear. If you are observing any of the particle from an accelerated frame, we experience a pseudo force. So it will be, the net force will be what? Actual force plus this pseudo force. And the pseudo force will be having always a negative sign. And the best example is if you are just moving in a bus which is not moving at a constant velocity, it is accelerating. And if you are looking at the plants from this bus, what we feel? We feel that the plants are moving backward and we are moving forward. Right. If you are moving forward with an acceleration A0, we experience that these plants are moving with an acceleration minus A0. That is why a minus sign is here. Hope things are clear. Okay, and another example, and always in your plus 2 classes and all, you'll be having a statement like, why you feel weightlessness in a freely falling elevator. Why we feel weightlessness? It is a question that is asked frequently for you also. What is the reason for weightlessness in a freely falling elevator? A freely falling elevator is a non-inertial frame. And this freely falling elevator is falling under the influence of gravity. It is falling. Its ties and all are gone. It is freely falling. So normally its acceleration will be what? It will be equal to plus g. So what will we get? The fictitious force will be minus m into a0. And here a0 is g. So what I'll get? Minus mg. So the net force as observed by an observer in an elevator will be what? True force plus fictitious force. True force is mg minus mg. So the net force is 0 means what? Acceleration is 0. So velocity is constant. And what happens? It shows that the apparent weight of a body in non-inertial frame will be what? Weight of the body will be what? M into acceleration. It is already acceleration, so m or net force will be 0. That is, the body is weightless condition. A condition that we obtains in artificial satellite. The net weightlessness. Since what you feel is net force will be 0. Okay, so we feel weightlessness inside a what? Freely falling elevator. So next we are going to discuss what are the two forces. What are the two pseudo forces that we observe in an accelerating frame? And it is just called up by some technical terms. And this rotating frame of reference is non-inertial frame, and they are also accelerating frame. There are two types of pseudo forces. The first one we are going to discuss is centrifugal force. Consider a non-inertial frame, and this frame is rotating. And normally rotational velocity is represented by the angular velocity omega. And it is rotating about an axis fixed with respect to an inertial frame. Suppose we assume a particle of mass m at rest in non-inertial frame. With respect to the non-inertial frame, the particle has no acceleration. But the particle experiences an acceleration with respect to inertial frame. I am just repeat it. A non-inertial frame rotating with a uniform angular velocity omega, and a particle of mass m is at rest in a non-inertial frame. That means, what does the particle is at rest in a non-inertial frame means? We feel no acceleration since the particle is at rest, but the particle experience, and if the same particle is observed from an inertial frame, what happens? It experiences an acceleration. The same thing I have told you before. If you are moving in a constant, moving in a bus which is accelerating, and if you are looking at another person, we don't feel any acceleration sitting near to us. But if we are looking outside, we feel that some pseudo forces is acting on the planes which were really fixed. The same thing or same analogy is used here. We are having a non-inertial frame like a rotating wheel of a car, and for example like a bee is stuck to the rotating wheel of the car, and if you are observing the bee, a bee or a honey bee which is just put on a wheel of a car, and if you are if you are standing on the wheel and observing the honey bee, what you feel? Honey bee and bee ourselves are rotating with the same we are moving with the same acceleration. So what we feel? Both are at rest. And if you are observing this honey bee from ground, what we feel? It is having some sort of acceleration. Such an acceleration is called centrifugal acceleration, and observed with respect to inertial frame, which is normally given by acceleration is basically given by a is equal to omega square r, that you have studied in your plus 2 classes. And here I'll have to put a negative sign that I have given you why it is so. So r is the radius vector directed away from the force, and here here it is acceleration. So multiplying with mass, we'll get the force F0 is equal to minus ma0 is equal to what? M omega square r. We are having already a minus sign here. For fictitious force, we are having again a minus sign. So net in the expression, I can write it as m omega square r. So this fictitious force is called the centrifugal force, and it is directed away from the center. Because of this force, the particle is thrown away from the axis unless a real force is balancing it. Okay. If you are like, what happens? If you're just tying a thread to a stone, and if you're trying to rotate it, what happens? The stone continues its motion since in its circular motion. If you're tying a thread to a stone and one end of the thread is tied to a stone, the other end is in our hand. And if you're making a rotation motion, it rotates since what happens? The external centrifugal force which is directed outside is balanced by the force that our hand is giving, and both are in equal and opposite direction, and what happens? It continues its motion. And if the centrifugal force which is acting in the away from the direction of our force we are applying, the the thread gets cuts and the stone will be moving apart. So this fictitious force F0 is called the centrifugal force, and it is directed away from the sun. And the centrifugal force is a fictitious force acting on a particle which is either at rest or which is accelerating. Okay, I'll give you the expression that is centrifugal force Okay, this centrifugal force is a fictitious force acting on a particle which is at rest with respect to a non-inertial frame. Okay, give you just keep in mind this centrifugal force is a pseudo force, and it is observed in by a particle which is at rest in a non-inertial frame. And if you are observing the particle from an inertial frame, a particle which is at rest in a non-inertial frame, and this motion is observed by a man which is standing in an inertial frame, then there is a pseudo force, and such a force is known as centrifugal force, represented by m omega square r. So this is the first pseudo force, and this is observed for a particle at rest in a non-inertial frame. And in all cases, the particle won't be at rest in a non-inertial frame. So the next case will be normally what? Okay, what you are told is right. The particle is moving in a non-inertial frame. Okay, so the next force is rotating frame of reference, Coriolis force. Okay, for that again we assume two frames, S and S prime. S frame is having coordinates x, y and z, and S prime frame is having coordinate x prime, y prime and z prime. Let S be the inertial frame and S prime be non-inertial frame, rotating with angular velocity omega about Z prime axis relative to S. Both the frames is having a common origin. Now the particle is at rest with respect to inertial frame, and with respect to the S prime frame, particle is moving. Okay, in the earlier case it was the particle was at rest in a non-inertial frame. Here the particle is moving with respect to non-inertial frame S prime. The particle appears to be moving with a velocity. And the rotational velocity is what? Omega square, omega cross r, or r omega, or in vectorial form omega cross r. And since the particle appears to be moving with a velocity minus omega cross r. R is the position vector of the particle with respect to S, and R prime is the position vector of the particle with respect to S prime frame. Since both the origins are coinciding, what happens? This distance R and R prime will be same. Since both origins coincide, R and R prime will be same. And what happens is rotational velocity is something that you studied in your earlier classes. Vectorial from omega cross r. Okay. Now the particle is moving with a velocity v with respect to S frame. This, that is with respect to S prime frame, the net velocity will be. So initially the particle was at rest with respect to inertial frame, and the particle was moving with a velocity minus omega square omega cross r with respect to non-inertial frame. So the velocity will be minus omega cross r. Now we are considering the case that is the particle is moving with a velocity v with respect to S frame. So it will be having a velocity omega square cross r with respect to S prime frame. So what happens is the net velocity with respect to the S prime frame will be what? V prime is equal to V minus omega cross R. Or I can write velocity is derivative of position. dr by dt S prime is equal to R is equal to R prime. I can simply write dr by dt with respect to S minus omega square omega cross R. dr by dt with respect to S is what? I'll take it here and I'll take this one in this side. So I'll get dr by dt S is equal to dr by dt S prime plus omega cross R. It is purely mathematics only. Okay. The thing is, a body which is moving with a velocity v with respect to S frame and it is having a velocity minus omega cross R with respect to S prime frame. So the net velocity with respect to S prime frame will be v minus omega cross R. Right. V prime is equal to v minus omega cross R. That is something we have discussed. So dr by dt in S frame is dr by dt in S prime frame plus omega cross R. These are all operators. So moving R is common, vector R is common on all sides. So removing the vector R, I can write d by dt in S prime is d by dt in S prime frame plus omega cross. And I can put any of these vectors in this position. Instead of R, if I am putting, instead of R, removing R, putting velocity means dv by dt in S is dv by dt in S prime plus omega cross v. dv by dt was what? Acceleration. d by dt in S frame is equal to, and I am going to make a substitution for v. V is what? V prime plus omega cross R. d by dt in S frame is what? d by dt of v prime plus omega cross R in S prime frame. Omega plus v prime cross omega cross R. And just expanding it, dv prime by dt in S prime frame is equal to d by dt of omega cross R in S prime frame. Omega cross v prime plus omega cross R. And d by dt is the acceleration in S frame and dv prime by dt is what? Acceleration of the particle with respect to S prime frame. So what I can write? A is equal to A prime plus d by dt omega cross R in S prime frame, omega cross v plus omega cross R. And again applying the product rule for derivatives, d by dt of omega cross R, d omega by dt plus R plus omega cross dr by dt in S prime frame. And here writing it as in the usual form. Hope you are writing down all the notebooks, all the things that is displayed on the screen in your notebook. Otherwise, it will be very difficult for you to follow. And the angular velocity omega is uniform. So for uniform angular velocity, what I can write? Omega is constant means the derivative of omega with respect to time will be 0. It's given in the beginning, uniform angular velocity. It is rotating with a uniform angular velocity. It is shown here. Okay, angular velocity rotating with a uniform angular. It's not shown, but it is uniform angular velocity. Okay. So what I'll get? Substituting that also, omega cross A prime plus omega cross V prime. 0 cross R will be again 0. So omega cross V prime plus omega cross R. So what is left is 2 omega cross V prime plus omega cross R. And so you have got the acceleration on LHS. Normally this term will be all accelerations. And this minus 2 omega cross V prime is called the Coriolis acceleration, and omega cross R. What is that one? Omega square R. What is that one? That is something that you studied before. Omega square R. What is this one? It is centrifugal acceleration. So what you have got altogether? The net acceleration in S frame, acceleration observed with respect to for the particle in S frame will be the acceleration with respect to S prime frame with two accelerations. First one is called the Coriolis acceleration and the other one is called the centrifugal acceleration. And these two accelerations are, when we are multiplying LHS and RHS with mass, what you'll get? You will get force. So it will be like what? The force which is experienced, MA is equal to MA prime plus 2M omega cross V plus M into omega cross R. What you are doing next is substituting MA prime is equal to F prime, MA is equal to F, and just rearranging. What you'll get? Since the pseudo force is having negative sign, it is must we have to rearrange, and we are trying to observe the motion of the particle in S prime frame, which is an accelerating rotating frame. The force experienced by a particle in S prime frame will be the actual force on the particle plus the pseudo force or fictitious force. And the pseudo force is a combination of two forces. First one is the Coriolis force, which is having the velocity component, and this is a force experienced by a particle which is moving with a velocity in a non-inertial frame. The Coriolis force is a fictitious force acting on a particle in motion in non-inertial frame, and its value depends upon omega and V. But the centrifugal force is a fictitious force acting on a particle which is at rest with respect to non-inertial frame. So it is very important. It is again a question that is frequently asked. What is the pseudo force observed on a particle which is moving in a non-inertial frame? It is Coriolis force. Its expression is minus 2m omega cross V prime. And the pseudo force acting on a particle at rest in a non-inertial frame is what? M into omega cross R, M into omega square R, which is centrifugal force. Okay, and in the next class we are going to discuss two examples for each of this. Fx, Coriolis force, and centrifugal force and all. So hope it is clear. We have discussed inertial, non-inertial frames, Galilean transformation, hypothesis of Galilean invariance. Then we have discussed forces acting in non-inertial frame, the fictitious force or pseudo force. First one is centrifugal force, second one is Coriolis force and its expressions. Hope the things are clear for you. So we'll see you soon in your next class. Just go through the portions, write down the notes. In the next class, we'll discuss some problems and the two examples. So if you are having any doubt, come to me personally and ask. So thank you.